Good evening, folks, and welcome to another edition of Ice Wolves Insider. Well, on tonight's program, we'll be joined by Ice Wolves assistant coach Ron Holloway, as well as Ice Wolves players Braden Oleksyn and Brendan Boyd. And then later on from the stands, we'll talk with Ice Wolves followers Keith Kranchmer, Roger Schooley, and Curtis Scalini. Should be a great show. We'll see you right back. Welcome back to Ice Wolves Insider. At this time, we're talking to Ice Wolves assistant coach Ron Holloway. Ron, welcome to the program.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah. All right. So, unfortunately, we wish we were under better circumstances, but we're interviewing you tonight. But unfortunately, the way things have gone, you guys are on a bit of a skid now. I think it's 6 games, 5-game homestand. Unfortunately, you guys weren't able to pick up a victory. Let's just talk about the last week's games. You had a big game there early in the week against the Melfort Mustangs. Obviously not the outcome you guys wanted. I believe it was a 7-4 loss. Maybe just talk about that game. What went wrong that night?
Well, it definitely was. It was a tough loss. Probably our toughest loss of the year. I mean, it was a game that we needed the points to stay ahead of Melfort, and we thought that everybody would be fired up and ready to go in that game. And unfortunately, we had a bad second period, and it just we couldn't recover from it. And unfortunately, we lost that game. It was very tough for our team, tough on everybody, our 20-year-olds especially.
What is it about the Mustangs? Because you guys have been pretty neck and neck in the standings all year long, but the Mustangs, for whatever reason, have had your number this year. Do you guys have a reason why as to why that's been this year?
I wish I knew. It's one of those things. It's we can play against a Melville or Yorkton and have really good games against them, and then we play against Melfort, and for whatever reason we take our foot off the gas and seem to let a team like that back in. Nothing against them; they're a strong team, good goaltending, but it's games like that we have to win. And for us to get into playoffs, it's a team that we have to obviously get ahead of, just in the standings, but just for confidence-wise, we got to beat teams like that on a regular basis.
Mm-hmm. Then a few nights later, you guys again had the Nipawin Hawks, and you had previously seen the Hawks again here at home not too long before. This one was a slightly better outcome, but again, still a loss, 4-2 in favor of Nipawin. That must have been tough, seeing you guys come out just so well at the first period, and then only to go down 1-0 early and then lose the game.
Yeah, again, it comes back to they'd score a goal, or we'd score a goal, and they would score right back on the next shift, and it's so deflating for our players, and we talk about it constantly. It's not a skill thing. It's just a confidence thing. We're just not confident right now in our game, and we have to get over that hump somehow to push us over the top. But it's a Nipawin Hawk, again, a real good team with great goaltender, and we just have to compete with those guys, and especially in our rink. I mean, our rink is so important to us. We win a lot of games at home. It's such an advantage playing in the Mel. With the smaller ice surface, we're used to playing there, and teams don't like coming to the Mel. So it's games like that we got to win for sure.
Mm-hmm. Is there a part of your thinking though that okay, we've seen the Hawks now a couple of times recently. We've seen the Humboldt Broncos, 2 very good teams in your division. No disrespect to the teams coming up in your schedule, but those are 2 really quality teams. Is there a bit of a relief that you're now going to be facing perhaps a different tier of opponents coming up?
Well, I suppose. I mean, everybody looks at the schedule and you know who your opponents are. And Humboldt, I mean, they're ranked in the top 10 in Canada. So I mean, they're obviously a good team, and Nipawin's right there too. But it's a tough league. I mean, you look at all the divisions, the South and the North Division, they're tight. I mean, they're battling in the South Division for the final playoff spot, it's the same as we are, and that shows that the league is really consistent. Nobody's running away with it in our league, and I think that shows a lot for the players and the skill level in the SJHL, that the teams are competitive. And yeah, for sure. I mean, you don't want to look past teams, but I mean, teams that you do meet in the schedule, there's different ideas you have for each team that you're playing against.
Yeah. Of course, as it turns out, not only are you facing these quality teams, but you've been undermanned recently. Quite a few key players have been out recently. How much of an impact has that made in terms of what you've seen in recent weeks?
Well, it's huge. I mean, Spencer Brennan was playing his best hockey he's played for us until he broke his finger in Humboldt, and he's going to be gone for a little bit here, and that was a big blow to our team. It gave us 2 scoring lines, and that's what you want in your team, is to have 2 scoring lines, and that was huge when we lost Spencer, and then to lose Jared Iron for the second time this year, and Jared was playing really well too. And it's those things that you don't want to blame our losses on one or two players because it's a team game, but there are huge holes to fill in our team. So it was tough, and Braden and Oleksyn going down, we miss a score like that, second in our team in scoring. It's tough to fill those shoes for sure.
Yeah. Now looking ahead here, you guys have the Battleford's North Stars up next. What are you anticipating in that game in North Battleford?
Well, we haven't seen them for a while, and from what we've seen watching games on the internet, they're playing really good right now. They're a team that doesn't. They have 4 lines and they don't quit. They just keep coming at you in waves, and it's a team that you just can't you can't take them for granted. You got to stay on them defensively all the time. Doesn't matter which line is out there. So it's a a team that hopefully that we can jump on them early when we get there. We've had some success in North Battleford, so hopefully we can, like I said, jump on them early and get the lead and maintain it.
Mm-hmm. We've been focusing on, unfortunately, because there have been a few losses recently. Maybe talk about some of the things that you have seen that are positives from the losses, things that you're encouraged about, like maybe the progression of certain players or just some team play. What are some things that have caught your eye in a good way?
Well, for sure, like our younger guys they're getting better every game, and that we made a decision to make some trades and move some 20-year-olds to get younger this year, and our younger guys I think are definitely improving every game. I mean, we got guys like Kehoe is playing really well for us. We had him up on the second line for a while. I mean, he's going to be a great player in this league. He's starting to get confident. He's doing more things with the puck, and we're happy with the progression that he's been playing. Kaylee Bajork's been playing great for us on the back end. For a young guy to come in, and we're putting him in tough situations. He's killing penalties, and it's tough when you're playing against their best lines, and he's been responding really well for us. So we're very happy with our young guys. Our goaltending, Miles, has been keeping us in games. He's been playing really strong, and it's tough when you give up as many shots as we do, and you put so much pressure on your back end and your goaltending, and when things don't go good, everybody points fingers. But I think our defense and Miles have been fantastic this year. They've been keeping us in a lot of games.
Now you guys are still involved in this really close race with the Melfort Mustangs. They had a few games at hand on you, but they blew some opportunities this past weekend against, I believe, Esteban and Weyburn. How do you assess your odds in terms of catching the Mustangs? They're just 1 point ahead of you here. You guys basically equal in games played, and you play them again. How do you see your odds heading down the stretch here?
Well, we're we like to look in the crystal ball and say we're going to do all right. But I mean, last week we were sitting pretty good. They did have games in hand on us, but they're trying to catch us. And unfortunately, right now we're trying to catch them. We're 1 point back, and we do play them again, which is it's a huge game in Melfort. But I mean, it's now we're kind of relying on other teams to help us out a bit here too. But still, it's one of those things that it's going to be tight right down to the end. We know that now, and if we have the opportunity to win some games, put 2 or 3 together, we have to do it now. I mean, going into slump during the season is a lot better than going into slump in the playoffs. So I mean, maybe this is a good thing if we want to look at it that way. But yeah, we definitely have to turn this around, and I'm pretty positive we will.
You have a lot of rivalry games coming up here. You got the North Stars twice, you got the Flin Flon Bombers twice. You played well against the Bombers this season. That must be something that you're also thinking, hey, we get a chance here to get a pretty good record down the stretch here.
Well, you do. I mean, you look at the games that we have to play, and Flin Flon is a team that doesn't play good in the Mel, and we know that they're a strong team. But it's you don't want to put too much into it that they're guaranteed win games or anything like that. But I mean, we just as a team we have to be better right from the start of the game right to the end. And unfortunately, this last little slump we haven't been consistent. We haven't played a good 60-minute game. We'll show spurts where we're pretty dominant when we get the puck down low in their zone, and a lot of teams can't handle us. But it's when we make those little mistakes that the guys for whatever reason not back checking or not picking up their man, that 90% of the time they'll do that, and it's not an issue. But the one time that it does go south on us, they score a goal and it costs us. So those are tough to take.
Just finally, on some league news, it was announced pretty recently that the SJHL is going to try a new alignment next year for both the division setup as well as the regular season play and of course the playoff format. And in case anyone has heard it, it's now 3 divisions. You guys are in a division with Melfort, Nipawin, and Flin Flon. Just maybe give us your assessment on this bit of league news here.
Well, I like it for our point of view. I mean, we're going to play against the teams that that I guess are rivals, so it should be good for the fans. But I like the governors came up with this idea, and what it's going to do is throughout the season, it doesn't matter, where you're sitting in your league, it's in your division, it's going to be your points throughout the year that are going to make the difference where you are in the playoffs. So even games that, where one guy in a division may be real strong, it's still going to matter because you could end up being in fourth or fifth in the total standings. So it's going to be exciting for the fans. It's going to make, I think, every game important throughout the year. And that was the idea of it, is to maybe cut down a little bit on the traveling and then make it a little more exciting throughout the whole year.
Yeah, it should be very interesting. All right, well, Ron, thanks very much for being on the program tonight.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
All right, just joining us, this is Ice Wolves Insider, and we've been talking with Ice Wolves assistant coach Ron Holloway. We'll be right back with Ice Wolves players Brendan Boyd and Braden Oleksyn. Welcome back to Ice Wolves Insider. At this stage, we're talking with a couple of Ice Wolves players, both rookies actually, Braden Oleksyn and Brendan Boyd. Guys, welcome to the program.
Thank you. Thanks, Kelly.
All right. Well, unfortunately, again, as we mentioned with Ron, it's been a tough stretch lately, a tough go of it. You guys went through a 6-game losing skid recently, 5 losses in a row at home. You guys are now having a chance to go on the road and you face the Battle for the North Stars and the Kindersley Clippers. Maybe just talk about kind of the outlook in the room. The guys still, positive, upbeat, knowing that they're still in it in terms of the playoff race. So start with you there, Brendan.
Yeah, you can't ever get down when you lose a couple games. Everyone's still being positive, and we know that the task at hand is to make the playoffs, and that's what our main focus is right now.
Yeah. Braden, your take on that?
Yeah, we lost a couple games in a row, but we did that before too, and we know we can bounce back from that when we play like we can, and we just got to get back to playing simple hockey and playing our game, and things should come. But yeah, still our goal is to make the playoffs. Yeah,
I was actually going to ask you guys that next. What are some of the things that you've been hearing from the coaches in terms of things that could be tweaked or changed a little in order to get success in the road here? I'll start with you there, Brendan.
Well, I think one of our keys is we have to get a better start. We did have an all right start the other day against Nipawin, but we still gave up the first goal, and I think if we can get the first goal, that'll be huge and kind of get the momentum in our favor.
Mm-hmm. Braden, what do you see as keys coming up here?
Yeah, I think we just need to get back to keeping it simple and playing like we can and not trying to do too much.
Mm-hmm. So looking back the last 2 games here, again, that loss to Melfort was a tough loss. I believe you were in the lineup for that one there, Braden, right?
Yep.
Maybe give us your take on what went wrong in that game. That was a pretty big game, and unfortunately you guys were
Yeah, it was. Well, they came out, they were all over us at the start of the game, and we were lucky to get out of that first period tied. And the second period was all right, and then coming into the third, we just, they scored 4 unanswered goals, and that really killed us. We just had a bad 5-10 minutes, and that can really cost you. You got to play a 60-minute game. You can't just play 20.
Yeah, Brendan, how did you see that game against Melfort?
Yeah, I seen it pretty much the same. I thought we were lucky to get out the first tied. I think the shots were like 15-4 or something like that. And second period, we like Braden said, it was just kind of average. And then the third period, the 10 minutes killed us, and that's been something that we've kind of talked about all year too. Is you have to play a full 60, or else that other 10 minutes could lose you the game, and it's pretty much what happened against Melfort.
Yeah. And then you were in the lineup in that Nipawin game, the most recent game. It was a loss, but you guys were really coming out great guns in the first period. Maybe talk about that game. And again, it had to be disappointing given how well you guys started that game.
Yeah, that was also our main focus too, was to have a great start, and I think we really did that. We were throwing pucks on net and banging bodies, and unfortunately they scored the first goal, which kind of killed us, killed our momentum a bit, and yeah.
Braden, unfortunately, you've been in and out of the lineup recently, and I know the team has felt your absence sort of thing. Hopefully there's good news in terms of you being in the lineup soon, but how are things going in terms of the injury?
It's getting a little better. It's just a reoccurring injury. I heard it a couple of years ago, and I just kind of tweaked it a bit. and well, it ended up being a little more than just a tweak, but I think I'll be back soon. I got a brace to play with, so.
It's obviously probably been pretty tough watching these important games and not being able to participate. Eh?
Yeah, it hasn't been easy because you could be out there making a difference, but you just gotta get back as soon as you can and help the team.
Yeah. Now, Brendan, this is your first time on the show. We already asked Braden these sort of questions, but maybe give us your overall assessment about playing in La Ronge this first year here.
I really like it. It's a tight-knit, good hockey community. We have a lot of people supporting us, and I look forward to hopefully staying here for the next 2 years of my junior career because I love it here. I love my billets. All the billet families that I've met seem really nice, and it's just a tight-knit hockey community.
What's it like playing for Bob Beatty?
It's pretty great. He's a really good coach. He knows what he's talking about, and he knows a lot of people too. So, for a 20-year-old looking for a scholarship type of deal, that's a coach you'd want for you talking to the scouts.
Mm-hmm. And just finally, it seems that you've really clicked online there with Owen LeClaire, another rookie, as well as veteran Pavel Zarabecki. Maybe talk about playing with those two guys.
Yeah, I think we've pretty much played together for the whole year, and we started to develop chemistry pretty early on. And I think Bob noticed that, and he kind of kept us together. And right now we're just trying to do more offensively, and I think a little bit of it has been showing off.
Mm-hmm. Good stuff. Well, guys, thanks very much for being on the program, and good luck with this upcoming road trip there.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Kelly.
If you're just joining us, this is Ice Wolves Insider, and we've been joined by Ice Wolves players Braden Oleksyn and Brendan Boyd. We'll be right back with From the Stands. Welcome back to Ice Wolves Insider. It's now time for our usual segment with the fans from the stands, and tonight we're joined by Ice Wolves followers Curtis Skalicki, Roger Schooley, and Keith Kratchmer. Guys, welcome to the program.
Thanks, Kelly. Thanks, Kelly.
All right. So unfortunately, the Ice Wolves are on a 6-game skid. They went 0-4 in their 5-game homestand. As it turns out, they're still in the thick of the playoff race with the Melfort Mustangs because the Mustangs had kind of a bad weekend themselves. Maybe just give us, first off, your assessment of the Ice Wolves' recent play. I'll start with you there, Curtis. What do you think has been happening? Is it just like really good teams, or what's happening?
Well, you go down and do a western or a southern swing, and you play Humboldt, and you play or Notre Dame, Melville, Yorkton, and you get 1 win out of the 3, and then you play Humboldt back-to-back here. I mean, really the only game that we had a real good shot at winning was against Melfort, and we, the outcome of that one, and then we played a real good game against Nipawin, and probably could have deserved a point out of it, but oh well.
Yeah. Roger, your take on the recent skid?
Yeah, it's what Kelly or what Curtis said there. I thought the game against Melfort, we were really flat, and they just didn't look like they were ready to play. The game against Nipawin, though, like Darren Schwartz used to say when he coached here, all Swede, no finish. Because we took the play to them most of the game, we just couldn't finish.
Yeah. Keith, your take?
Well, I think the inconsistency too. We seemed to play a good game, and then the next game we're just really flat. The other night against Nipawin, I thought we played well. We had a lot of shots in net, but we just couldn't get them in. Just can't seem to finish our attempts, and then we tend to flatten off for a while, and then I think our goaltending is keeping us in there. I just don't think that we're giving Miles enough support, for offensive wise.
It doesn't help with all the injuries that they've had to their forward ranks. Guys like Jared Iron and Braden Oleksyn. Maybe most importantly, Spencer Brennan. I can't believe how big Nipawin and Humboldt are. In addition to being good, big clubs. And
I think Spencer's a big loss.
Yeah.
It just his presence out there.
Well, he definitely was coming on when he got hurt. He was playing a lot better than he had earlier in the year, and looked like he hit his stride. But again, we got to remember this is a very young team. You're not going to have that finish all the way through like you would on a veteran team. So it'll come. It's just
Yeah.
Might take some time.
Yeah, what's your guys' assessment in terms of this last month here, the last few weeks of games here in the regular season? You think the Ice Wolves will be able to pull it out? They're just 1 point back at the Mustangs. The Mustangs only have the one game in hand now, as opposed to like 3 or 4 previously. How do you assess their odds there, Curtis?
Well, Kindersley's a must-win, and we played Flin Flon pretty good. They've been kind of falling back in the standings. If you can get yourself, 2 to 3 points out of that, and we play Battleford not bad either. So we've got it's in our hands because we play these teams good, but you got to go out and win those games.
Yeah, Roger, your take?
Yeah, both teams are kind of backing into the playoffs right now. It looks like I think that you got to look shorter term than Flin Flon and Kindersley. I think you got to win this game against Battleford tomorrow night. That's where it starts. You come out, you win that game, a little momentum, put some pressure on Melford. Maybe they fold, maybe they buck up and start playing better. But I think let's get through Battleford first, and then worry about the games after that.
Yeah, Keith.
Well, fortunately, Melford hasn't been much more consistent than ourselves too. So, and they've only got 2 more home games. So, and they've lost 5 in a row at home. So maybe it is good they're on the road. Maybe it'll kind of waken them up, and they'll have less pressure. So hopefully that'll help them as well.
Yeah. Now, aside from the Ice Wolves, I do want to talk about the new SJHL realignment for next season. Very interesting format that's come up here. They've come up with and basically it's 3 divisions. Ice Wolves will be with the Mustangs, the Hawks, and the Bombers in one. Got I think Humboldt, Notre Dame, Battleford's, Kindersley in the next, and the Southern teams in the other division aside from Notre Dame. Obviously, I think you got the reseeding in the playoffs. What do you guys feel about that new playoff structure and the regular season format? I'll start with you there, Curtis.
You know what? I have no idea. It's going to be a shootout at the OK Corral. You're going to get a lot more games against those northern your divisional opponents. I guess it's probably supposed to save a little bit of money on travel. I'm not sure. I mean, Roger's on the board as well, so he's probably got a bit more insight on that. But you got to try something. I mean, I think all in all, attendance is down a little bit throughout the league. I mean, when your best team and perennial league champion Humboldt Broncos are only getting 400 to 500, what's going on? So you got to try something as a league, and I applaud the league for trying something different because the status quo doesn't seem to be working.
Yeah. Roger, I do want to ask you about this, but I also want to ask you about that point that Curtis brought up. And I've often heard this from fans. Like, how much of a savings is there when you're tweaking the regular season schedule like this? When you're, maybe got next year, I think it's 56 games instead of 54. Yeah. Maybe, you've been on the board for quite a while. What is the difference here?
Oh, it's a significant difference. I can't give you numbers right off the top of my head, yeah. But I know Bob and I had a long discussion. We put together, a number of scenarios and of travel, based on a 2 or 3 division league. And I know the big concern with a couple of teams is, the potential to get a first round matchup between, say, Flin Flon and Estevan or L'Orange and Notre Dame. But Bob and I sat down one afternoon and we threw out as many scenarios as we could. We picked teams at random and placed them, in a pretend standings. And it's very rare that you'd get a, extreme north-south playoff series. So that's, I don't know if that's as big a concern as some people have. But, I think we got to do something a little bit different. Add some excitement. Excuse me. It gives the league an opportunity to sell the naming of another division, more money in the league, more money to the teams. The marketing's been going really well league-wide, and it's I think that helps a little bit as well. So,
Keith, your take on this whole realignment?
Well, I don't know if it'll help with the fan attendance. I don't know if there'll be that much of a rivalry. I mean, we play a lot of these teams most of the time anyway, so I think the one advantage we have is that Humboldt won't be in our division year after year. And making the playoffs, I don't know if we'd have that much more of a chance of making the playoffs. But the playing each other more, playing other teams more consistently may have more familiarity, and that may bring out more people because they're more familiar with the teams.
Breed more contempt.
Yeah.
That as well.
And people like the contempt.
People like to watch the
And
depth.
I think other teams that come here, the more they're here, the more they get into that role and that mood as well. So.
What about the argument about the regular season relevance? The fact that they didn't. A few years ago, they did the whole thing that the CFL does, where basically if you have a better team that's sixth than the fifth place team in the other division, they're kind of doing that this year, really, with this new wild card playoff format. Do you think that's going to make a big difference?
Well, yeah, I guess it'll depend. It'll vary from year to year. Some years it might be significant. Different other years, depends on how your different divisions go and who's playing well. I guess you could potentially have, L'Orange Flin Flon final. Wouldn't that be terrible? What a great series that would be going back and forth, or Estevan Weyburn, same thing.
Yeah. Yorkton Melville. I mean, there's lots of.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm. So I don't think it's that big of a deal.
Mike Feeney, the play-by-play guy for the Battlefords North Stars, in his blog, he was wondering about the whole the second place seedings. That they get 4 through 6. I'm not sure if you were part of the discussions.
No,
you weren't there, but
the meeting, no.
You guys' thoughts on that? Like some people were wondering, why don't you just do the top 3 guys, the division winners as the top 3 seeds, and then seed everybody else just based on points? You think that's maybe one thing they could have done, or do you think there's maybe some merit to this idea with the second place division finishers?
They're trying something. I mean, you know what? You give them credit for trying something, get it new. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. But you know what? If you keep doing the same thing, status quo, you got to find ways to generate more revenue. Some ways, some more excitement. Like Roger said, if you can get a Flin Flon L'Orange final, can you imagine? They'll pay the Cutter Crossroad. There'll be so much traffic.
Yeah. Oh, full barns, all right, yeah.
Yeah.
Sure.
I'm not sure. I haven't read the minutes of the league meeting. I'm not so sure that second place is written in stone yet.
Okay.
That might be something that may come up at the AGM, which still gives us lots of time to make any small adjustments. Maybe not. I don't know.
Yeah.
That's definitely not something that we're gonna add to the agenda, but there has been a little bit of talk about it. So, that may change, may not.
Okay. Well, guys, thanks very much for being on the program tonight.
Thank you.
All right. If you're just joining us, this is Ice Wolves Insider and From the Stands, so we'll be right back to wrap things up. Well, that's all the time we have for this evening's episode. Just a couple of notes before we sign off here. First off, you notice we have a new schedule, and this is the way it's going to be for the rest of the season. We're going to be airing Tuesday nights here on Access 7 at 7 o'clock, and again on Thursdays at 7 o'clock, and then Sunday evenings at 7:30. I also want to mention the next Ice Wolves home game is Saturday, the 9th of February against the Battlefords North Stars. A great rivalry. Hopefully we'll see you at the Mill. So that's all the time we have for tonight's show. We'll see you next week.